Welcome to the show. My name is Blossom. We have a great speaker for you today. I am not the one to gossip, but I'm going to let him tell you his story. His name is Mr. Christopher Washington, better known as Cash. Like I said, I'm not the one to gossip, so I'm going to let him tell you his story. Go get you some coffee, call somebody, and come on back.
Everyday life, steady coming at me. Everyday problems, steady trying to grab me. So I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, hey.
I'ma throw them up to you.
I'ma throw them up.
I can't run from my problems. I'ma run to the one that can solve them. And I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, hey.
I'ma throw them up to you.
Welcome. Once again, my name is Blossom. Like I said, we got a great speaker for you today. I am not the one to gossip, but Mr. Christopher Washington, better known as Cash, he's got a testimony to tell you. Chris, we want to thank you today for coming in here. God be the glory.
Yes, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here, and I want to say congratulations to the doors that God are opening. But I tell you, it's truly a blessing to be here.
Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Well, like I said, Chris, I ain't the one to gossip, and you can tell your story better than I can. So what I want you to do is let them people know what God has done, did, and gonna do in your life.
I just, anybody, I have two sayings that I love to say. One of them is let God be God. The other one is glory be to God. And I'm just thankful and grateful for what he's done and where he's brought me from. A lot of people see the name Cash and they kind of get it mistaken, but it actually stands for Chris always stays humble, because humility is a great way to go in God. But many people know my name is Christopher. And my name came, I didn't know truly what my name meant until I was 32 years old. And I was at a verge or in a place where I could hear the call of God, but then I had so many other things in my life that were going on, and I was at that threshold.
Right.
And I never forget the day had contemplated and were getting ready to commit suicide, was going to take my own life, because I felt I had no purpose. I felt that I had no meaning in life. I felt like everything that I had done up until that point was wrong, and I just wanted a easy out. And some told me to pray. Some then, but now I know Holy Spirit was showing me to pray.
Right.
And as I went back to my mother's home, and she came in and she looked at me, and I guess she could see the distraught on my face. She could see the look on my face, and she said to me, she said, I need to talk to you. It's time. And I said, what's going on? And she said, what's your name? And I said, it's Christopher.
Right.
Then she said, what's the first 6 letters of your name? I said, it's Christ. She said, an angel came to me when I was 8 months pregnant with you, and the number 8 being a new beginning.
Right.
And it was then that my mom has always been a believer, but that she truly sold out to Christ at that visitation of the angel. And she said that the angel instructed her that I were God's vessel that she was carrying. So she gave me that name because of the vision that was given to her, not knowing what my life would go through and what I would go through. But all glory be to God that now I'm here in God where I was supposed to be the whole time.
Okay. So now let's back up a little bit to like your childhood. What type of childhood did you have?
It wasn't a bad childhood. I grew up single parent home, as well as I grew up in the housing projects. And just about every house on the block that I lived on were single parent moms, and just about all of them had all boys. So they raised us. We were all good kids that went to school. Some of us did, I didn't, but some of us had fathers in their lives. But we grew up typical kids, having fun, playing sports. And as we grew older, some of us began to get in trouble, and some of us began to go different avenues. And I was one of the ones that I had always been sneaky in a sense.
I don't believe that.
Always. And my mom and I had my great aunt, God rest her soul, they didn't play around with me.
Right.
And I knew if I did anything and if one of them two caught me, I was gonna get in trouble. So I always had to do things being extra sneaky so they didn't catch me. So I started at an early age being sneaky, and I was kind of the one that jumped off of the porch out of my brother and my sister and got caught up in some things that I shouldn't have been caught up in. But I thank God again for his purpose and his assignment, that all the things that I experienced that should have landed me either possibly in jail or either in prison, or either in an early cemetery, because I was doing the things that should have led me there. I thank God for purpose and assignment, that he kept me around because he had a purpose for me, that now I'm able to not only have life, but I'm living a life that's pleasing unto God.
Well, as our guests, they'll soon find out that you are a gospel singer.
Yes.
And some of your music that I listen to, you talk about the block. What does the block mean? I know what the block means.
It's what most of, we're talking about the streets. We're talking about that place where so many of us got off track. It could be drug dealers. It could be people who just hang out, who just love the life. The block consists of numerous people. It could be young women who've gotten off track and that may love the guys that's out there on the block. But I thank God again because so many of us, we ventured off and ended up in that place.
Right.
I've got some cousins that went to prison. I've got some friends that just went to jail and learned. I've got some that's even doing life right now. I've got a lot of them that didn't make it, that are dead. Right. And a lot of times I'll break down and I'll get teary-eyed because that could have been me.
Right.
And I ask God often, what did you see in me that would allow me to be here, and them that did make it, that they're gone, like, what did you see in me? And it keeps me humble because so often, so many of us, we venture off not knowing and not caring because we're in a mind frame that we don't care. We as the saying, or as they say, I hear the kids now saying, YOLO, you only live once. We were in a mind frame that we thought we only live once.
Right.
And in that one life that we had, our minds was telling us that we're gonna live it to the fullest.
So now, when you were a kid, were you a follower or were you a leader on that block?
No, I was always a leader, but you know, I have an uncle, my mom's baby brother. God rest his soul. We just recently buried him.
And my condolences to the family.
And we thank you, and I say thank you from us all. But he came and got me early.
Amen.
And my uncle was that dude. So I was the one who would hang around him. He would take, and I'll see him in spite of the great household I was growing up in, he introduced me to what some know, or what was the west side of Tuscaloosa. He introduced me to that.
Right, right.
I'm a young boy from Gardner, didn't know, and I was following him. So I was a leader, but and I tell anybody, even now spiritually, before you could become a great leader, you got to be a great follower first.
Right, right.
And so often I thought I was following greatness, and I were, because what he was great at was that life on the streets.
If you had to minister to somebody right now, because I'm pretty sure somebody's looking at this show, what would you tell them? Look into the camera and minister to somebody.
I say this, and I be plain and simple, because here now I stand as hope. And what I mean by hope is I'm that one in a million that so many people talk about that don't make it out. I'm that one in a million that made it. And not only did I make it, but now I'm being used by God, and that could very well be you. I tell people all the time that God has a purpose for anybody that still has breath and life in them. God has assignment for anybody that has breath and life in them, but it takes us to answer our purpose and our assignment before you could be used by God. Don't underestimate, and I tell people, no matter your situation, where you're at, what you're going through, your circumstances, don't doubt who God has called you to be, because God has called all of us to be great. Don't settle for getting by, because if our Father is a king and I'm the heir of a king, if you're the heir of a king, then there's certain things that we're entitled to because of the priesthood. Amen. It's just coming.
Amen. I want to thank you for sharing that and just letting somebody know that if he did it for you, he could do it for us.
Yeah.
And with that being said, you know, you're a gospel singer. But we're going to break right now, and when we come back, I'm going to tell them about that party. Okay? Thank you.
Raise me up so I can stand on
on mountains. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Hey, new guy. Shovel, right?
Yeah, Rake, and I'm not exactly new. I've seen some action.
You're a shovel. Come on.
Oh, real nice coming from a rake. Ooh, get these heavy leaves off me. Hey, man, my last gig, I almost got electrocuted, nearly drowned, and went head-to-head with a metal pipe. That guy never called 811 to see if it was safe to dig.
It doesn't take the sharpest tool in the shed to call 811.
Our guy calls every time he digs. The mailbox, landscaping, the deck. Oh, man, that was a big
Oh,
job.
remember that?
That was a big one. Yeah, I remember that.
Calls every time? Cool.
Calling 811 is so easy, any tool could do it. It's quick and easy. Calling 811 gets your underground utility lines marked for free. It makes every project safer for everyone. Calling 811 before digging prevents utility outages, legal hassles, and personal injury.
Hey, safe digging is no accident. Always call 811 before you dig.
Here's the sower, Michael Guido of Meta, Georgia, with a seed for the garden of your heart.
3 little boys were caught in a storm. One started to cry and the other joined in. But the big brother said, "Stop your bawling. The Lord knows his business. He'll take care of us." And he did. One night, some big boys were crossing the lake and a gale swept down on them. They were terrified. But Jesus came to them walking on the water, saying, "Don't be afraid." They received him into their boat, and immediately it arrived at their destination. Are you in a storm? The Lord will come to you just when you need him. Take him into your boat, won't you?
A seed from the sower has originated from the studios of the Guido Evangelistic Association, Meta, Georgia.
Welcome to Creation Minute. I'm Eric Hovind. What is science? Webster says science is knowledge derived from observation and study. So is evolution part of science? Depends on what you mean. There are 6 different definitions of evolution. Cosmic evolution is the origin of time, space, and matter. Chemical evolution is the origin of all the elements we have today. Stellar evolution is the origin of the stars and planets. Organic evolution is the origin of life from non-life. Macroevolution is the origin of the major kinds of animals and plants. Then microevolution is simple variations within the kinds. Microevolution is the only one that's ever been observed and tested. The rest are not part of science. So is evolution part of science? Depends on what you mean. To learn more about creation, visit us at creationminute.com.
Welcome back. My name is Blossom. Like I said, we have my guest here today. Love him to death. Mighty man of God, Mr. Christopher Washington, better known as Cash. So now, Mr. Cash, okay. How did you get into music?
When I went to college, a friend of mine from college from Cincinnati, he kind of introduced me to rapping, which I had always done, but he was like, "Man, you're good. Let's go to another level."
Right.
So I began to record mixtapes with him and do things with him and began to place the music and it began to catch the ears and eyes of different people. So I began in what you call circular hip hop or regular hip hop then. And it just eventually the music caught on to where I started to do shows for big name artists. And I was in West Virginia on the same ticket as an artist then named Jay Quan. He had a record out that was big, and his manager saw me in West Virginia and was like, "You from Alabama? How haven't I heard about you?" And we talked and we chopped it up, and I ended up going to Atlanta, and he introduced me to a whole nother side of music and big names, and still just opening up for people, and it took off from there. And I laugh because I was on the way one day, and I felt in my spirit, don't go. But one day I was leaving my home, and I had a show. I just came off of a tour, and I had a show to do in Atlanta that night. And en route to Atlanta, I flipped 5 times in my SUV, near fatal car accident. But I had like 3 or 4 meetings with major record labels on the table. And when I had the accident, near fatal, it took me about 2 or 3 months to recover. And in the meantime, once the label saw that I had recovered, they started back coming, but something had happened. I didn't know what it was, and it was God calling me forth. To make a long story short, I turned down all of the major record deals that were on the table, and I went 6 months where I didn't touch music. One day, it came back to me, and that was the first time I really heard the voice of God, and he said, "This is what you'll do now." And the music just started coming. I recorded an album, and there was a guy, very good friend of mine, brother in God, Alvin Cornbread Garrett. And I get a phone call one day, and I get a phone call. He says, "This the guy that I've been hearing on this gospel album." And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, and I said, "Who is this?" He said, "Well, my name is Alvin, but they call me Cornbread." He said, "I want to meet with you." So I had no idea who the guy was, and my producer, I called him, and I said, "You know Alvin Garrett?" And he was like, "Cornbread?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Why?" I said, "He want to come down and meet with me about the album." And to make a long story short, he came down that evening, and every guy that I knew that was a musician was at the studio. They came that night because I had no idea of the level of the guy that I was meeting.
Right.
Alvin is the guy who basically, him and Ruben, he was the music or the band, Just a Few Cats. That's his band, and he also is a Grammy-nominated songwriter, producer now.
Wow.
Some Dietrich Haddon things he's written, Trinity 5-7, but he said, "I want to take this from here on out." And he basically came, the gospel music that I had no idea that was in me, he just took it and ran with it, and God just began to open doors.
So okay, let me get this right. So you didn't sing in the choir in church?
No. Well, I did. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful because back to my mom and my great aunt, we had to go to church.
Right.
We didn't have an option. And we had to do everything that we had to sing. Now, I had some cousins, they could sing, but we all sang in the choir, but they could sing. But you wouldn't want me to lead a song.
Wow.
We'll say that. But I just, I grew up in the choir because we were taught at an early age, while you're in my house, you're going to church.
Right.
And you're going to not only go to church, but you're going to participate in church. Right. And those seeds that were planted early begin to manifest themselves later. Wow. And glory be to God.
So now you're the only one that sang in your family, far as professional wise? No great uncle had a recording, because they say things we passed it down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Prior to my knowledge, my family sang. Even my uncle that passed could sing. My grandfather sang. But as far as a professional level, probably the closest to me, I have a cousin named Victoria that's in California. And she's opened up for some of the biggest name worship leaders in the gospel realm, and she can go. But I tell people, I thank God for her humility, because she could easily be singing right now for any gospel label across the nation. But she's an assignment at a church. She's a part of her worship team, praise team, and her humility, because she could easily be singing anywhere. And outside of me and her, not many that actually are in the
Well,
the
they say
realm.
your gifts will make room for you, you know, and I believe that. But okay, now kids, are you married? Because I'm pretty sure some of the girls out there are wondering, are you married?
No, I'm not married, divorced. 4 kids, I have 3 girls and a son. And I thank God, even with my son, I didn't meet him until he was 14. But I laugh because, and not out of humor, I had visions growing up of, I never knew my dad. And I had visions growing up of me in the yard and a man pulling up, which I thought was my dad.
Right.
I found out about my son when he was 14. And the vision that I saw actually was me being reunited with my son. I went up and met him a few days after his 14th birthday. I surprised him, flew up, got a chance to meet him. And I just thank God for that. And my girls, like I said, I have 3 girls, and
don't forget
now
that
my grandson, yeah, my grandboy now.
That's your image
yeah,
right there.
And my grandson, you know, so they keep me occupied, and I thank God, because each one of my kids, they came at a time in life when I needed.
Right.
There was levels of maturity that I would get into, and each one of them helped me to get to that spiritual level. Right. Even though I didn't early on see with my oldest daughter, but God was even working then, and he was just slowly but surely awakening me through my kids, and I thank God for them.
Well, like I said, I've heard your music before, but I want everybody else to hear how God has anointed you for such a time as this. Because everybody can't sing. I do my singing in the shower, you know what I'm saying? But you have to give people their props. And I thank God for you, you understand what I'm saying? Because when I hear the music, it makes me want to just do something, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, I just thank God for using you, and your words have such a meaning. It ministers to people, you know. So we got a couple minutes, so look into the camera and minister to somebody who wants to become an artist.
I tell anybody, first be sure that it's your purpose from God, because so often, so many of us, young and old, are running without purpose. And then a lot of people, they commend the music, but I tell them all glory be to God. Amen. I call it bridge music. And basically, I know where I came from, the streets. Now I'm at the church. There's got to be a bridge.
Amen.
that we've got to meet. We've got to come on. And I know that God gifted me to do a music that's going to bridge that gap. And I'm just walking in the purpose and the anointing that he's called for me to be walking into.
Well, with that being said, I want to close out, and I want to say the scripture that I love, Jeremiah 29:11, where it's saying, I'm paraphrasing, where it says that he wants the best for us. It's not to hurt us, it's not to harm us, but to have an expected end. And with that being said, God loves you, I love you, and we're going to let you hear Mr. Christopher Washington, better known as Cash.
At times it gets hard, and you know I got faith. I'm not ungrateful, thanks for mercy and grace. But every day problems steady in my face, and the enemy is steady on my case. I walk around in the public, I'm okay, but my soul is in such a dark place. I ride around, I'm just one step away. Me back to the streets is what they wanna see. Pastor Gardner ministers to me, who thought 3 in the morning be the first time we speak. In the word, gotta get my roots deep. I be eating scripture to the point I'm obese. Easy to turn to the streets, I was a beast. And there's a part of me that still wanna eat. You see my spirit and my flesh won't agree. And every day I live life steady getting at me.
I got everyday life steady coming at me. Everyday problems steady trying to grab me. So I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, ayy.
I'ma throw them up to you.
I'ma throw them up.
I can't run from my problems. I'ma run to the one that can solve them. And I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, ayy.
I'ma throw them up to you.
The bill's still coming, but the money ain't matching. The ends used to meet when I was out there trapping. Kids gotta eat, and they want the new fashion. I'm trying to do my best, but their mamas just keep snapping. Life's a test, and I plan on passing. We all know at times it gets drastic, and you can be aware of your happenings. We all fall short, that's just part of the story. I'm on my knees daily praying, not asking for a miracle, but God, I'm just saying. And my faith stands tall, but them naysayers waiting for my fall. But they watching from afar, they don't know that where I am, there you are. And yes, I know all of this, but it don't stop the everyday struggles for Chris.
I got everyday life steady coming at me. Everyday problems steady trying to grab me. So I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, yeah. I'ma throw them up.
I can't run from my problems. I'ma run one that can solve them, and I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, ayy.
I'ma throw them up to you.
See what I'm gonna do next time. Thoughts enter my mind about me heading back to the grind. When these bills I gotta sort through, money getting short too. Here's what I'm gonna do.
I'ma throw them up to you.
I'ma throw them up, yeah.
I'ma give them up to you.
See, I'ma give them up to you.
I'ma throw them up to
Hey,
you.
ain't no more worrying about it. Hey God, it's all in your hands now.
I got everyday life steady coming at me. Everyday problems steady trying to grab me. So I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, ayy.
I'ma throw them up to you.
See, I'ma throw them up.
I can't run from my problems. I'ma run to the one that can solve them, and I'ma give them up to you.
Give them up, ayy.
I'ma throw them up to you.
See, I'ma throw them up.
Welcome to Creation Minute. I'm Eric Hovind. The Grand Canyon. 277 miles long, 10 to 18 miles wide, and more than a mile deep. That's impressive. In the bottom is the Colorado River. You know, some scientists suggest the Colorado River formed the Grand Canyon over millions of years. But take a look at these facts to see it from a different perspective. The Colorado River exits the canyon 1,800 feet above sea level. It enters the canyon 2,800 feet above sea level, and the top of Grand Canyon is 7,000 feet above sea level. So you tell me, did the river flow uphill for millions of years to carve out the Grand Canyon? Or is it possible that the Grand Canyon is the result of Noah's flood? To learn more about creation, visit us at creationminute.com.
I always wanted a family. I waited for one, but it never seemed to work out. I would see other families and think how great it would be, but at least we had each other. And then my wife and I had the chance to be parents. Two brothers wanted to be adopted together. Every day they fill us with hope and love. All the things we thought we were supposed to give them. Call the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. 800-ASK-DTFA. You'll change a child's life forever.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. Protected the weak and defeated the strong. Shown courage and compassion. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Across America, Service Learning is helping students improve their grades and their communities. Service Learning makes school exciting by connecting the classroom with community service projects.
Before Service Learning, I was just an ordinary student causing mischief during class. After Service Learning started, I got so involved into it. I started paying attention more, picked up my grades.
Okay, very good.
Service Learning absolutely drives academic success.
Working together, students solve real problems, build new skills, and apply their knowledge in a whole new way.
The great thing about Service Learning is it gives you this opportunity to go out into the world and do things hands-on.
Inside the classroom and out, Service Learning opens new doors and brings learning to life. Service Learning can make a difference in your school. Visit Learn and Serve America at learnandserve.gov to find out how.